So this is going to be pretty big for the Nintendo Switch 2 in 2026, and their plans to continue the momentum and to have a big holiday season, better than what they had last year, especially here in the West, because we've got some new details on Pokemon Gen 10 and what is happening with this game, along with some potential leaks on how this could be the best that we've ever seen Pokemon when it comes to how it looks. Now, let's not get our hopes up right now, but we've got some, I would say at least some positive news to go over on that front. But before we get into that, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. We are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2 once we hit 150,000 subscribers. We're well on our way there. So hit that subscribe button, drop a comment below, hit that like button. It really helps out. Click the notification bell and drop a comment on what you're looking forward to most with this next generation of Pokemon on the Nintendo Switch 2. Okay, let's get into this here because I found this to be fascinating. A lot of stuff from the Giga Leak or from other stuff is starting to slowly seep out as we get closer and closer to Pokemon Day. That's going to be February 27th at 6 a.m. We've got a leak on that, 6 a.m. PT. We've got a leak on that. I will be live reacting because everyone is anticipating that the next big Pokemon game will be revealed at Pokemon Day. And there's even more anticipation or more rumors and stuff that's going on, and just going off of what is possibly happening. We have the Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase. Then we're going to have the Pokemon Presents new Gen 10 Pokemon. Then we're going to potentially have a Nintendo Direct in March or after that. So that does seem to be the cadence that they're going to go at, but we'll have to wait and see how this Gen 10 Pokemon, or this, I would say Pokemon Day more like it, how that goes, and then what they do afterwards. But I wanted to talk about a little bit here because it should be announced at Pokemon Day this year. And another thing that I would say is big for it, because it's the 30th anniversary, there was a Super Bowl commercial, a pretty big Super Bowl commercial with a lot of celebrities that all picked their favorite Pokemon. So I do think that with it being the 30th anniversary, with Pokemon Day coming up, yeah, it's all kind of lining up that there will be a brand new Generation 10 Pokemon game on the Nintendo Switch 2. Okay, let's get into the big thing here, because we all know what the elephant in the room is. Pokemon needs to do better when it comes to the graphics. Anytime we get a game that's like a Monster Tamer game, immediately Pokemon can learn a thing or two. They need to look at Pokemon this, Pokemon that, Pokemon this, Pokemon that. No game can just stand on its own. So that's just something that fans have been talking about now for a while. Since Pokemon Sword and Shield, really, since they went to stronger systems, people have been asking for that. And it does seem like this leak that we're getting here, it's going to deliver something that's much better than what we saw with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. And I know some of you guys might be thinking, well, that's not saying much, because Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is not a great looking game. It's kind of like somewhere between maybe a GameCube or a Wii and a Wii U graphically. It didn't even use all of what the Wii U is capable of. Considering you look at games like Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Xenoblade Chronicles X, those are big open world games that look significantly better than Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. But once again, we do have these leaks here, and it does seem that it's going to be better from the base floor, because what we're looking at here is from Pokenext Road to Gaia, so Gen 10, and they state that Pokemon Leaks build Gen 10 versus Scarlet and Violet 2 years before launch. So we kind of already know that Pokemon Wind and Wave, or whatever they're going to call it, Gen 10, that's going to be launching this year, 2026. So if you look at this, they show off a picture here from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, the rendering in 2020, so 2 years before it came out. And obviously this looks pretty terrible when it comes down to that. Now, the final graphics were obviously better, but like, it was something to where like, okay, this is not looking too good right now, and the final product ended up not looking too good. However, if you look over right below it, it's Pokemon Gen 10, and that's about 2 years or so before, and look at the graphics there. Significantly better when it comes to a forest and cave area. And I remember the Scarlet and Violet cave area that they're talking about here, and yeah, like, it looked better than this one here, but like not too much when it comes to it. So this already looks significantly better. So if they're going to refine the graphics from here, definitely the Nintendo Switch 2 is pulling some weight with this, with the overhead. Now, the next thing here is that if you're looking at it, obviously it's not done. This is just a really basic model of what they're doing with the city here in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. But then if you look below it right here with Gen 10, already significantly more detail, significantly more objects and things on the screen, just a lot better with it. So this is really early in terms of the build for potentially a city that they're going to have. So definitely a good thing that it's already looking a lot more advanced than what we saw with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, because that was just not good enough. Okay, let's move over to this next one here. You've got Pokemon Scarlet and Violet rendering 2 years beforehand once again. And yeah, once again, looking like a mush, like of a muck or something like that. Looking like a mush. And I remember playing the final build of the areas that this was in. And once again, not great when it comes to the sand area. That's when it really just kind of hits you. I mean, it hits you at the beginning of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, especially if you're playing on the Nintendo Switch 1. Oh my goodness. Switch 2, it's more bearable because they did improve things quite a bit when it comes to resolution, when it comes to frame rate, when it comes to just the performance. Everything is bumped up, the draw distance a bit, the Pokemon on screen, so it's definitely more acceptable. So if you only played it on Switch 2, like, you're like, okay, well, it's bad, but at least it's more like super playable with the frame rate. But if you're playing it on Switch 1, the frame rate, the resolution, the hitching, the issues, man, it was not great. Some areas just didn't even flat out work, like the water areas. The frame rate was just so bad. So if you look at this like cave / sand area, I remember this place. And then now if you're looking at it here with Gen 10, significantly better with the rocks, with the sand, with the trees, and with other things. So basically what this says is that they're already far more advanced 2 years before launch than what we saw with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which is once again a good thing. Now, I'm not going to sit there and say, oh my gosh, this is going to have the best graphics it's going to turn out to be, where it's way better than like Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild or Xenoblade Chronicles or whatever. I'm not going to say that, but what I am going to say is that they have made a, I would say, concerned effort here to improve the graphics based off of the feedback and based off of the backlash that they've been getting for the last number of years, since 2018 when they first revealed Pokemon Sword and Shield, or 2019 early. So yeah, when they first revealed that, it was already having issues. Pokemon Legends Arceus, that had issues as well. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet with the graphical fidelity. So it does look like moving to the Nintendo Switch 2, and I think really spending the most amount of time that they've ever gotten when it comes to a new gen Pokemon game. Usually it's about 3 years. This time it is 4 years from the last one. So that's Pokemon Scarlet and Violet now to Pokemon Gen 10. So I think that extra year of development should help out here, and the boost of this being on the Nintendo Switch 2. So another thing that I want to point out, some people think that there's going to be a Switch 1 version. Based off of the leaks and kind of some of the stuff here, I don't think there's going to be a Nintendo Switch 1 version of this game. But we'll talk about that just a bit more here. So when it comes to the release of it, 4 years in between, that's huge. One more extra year can get so much stuff done. Clearly with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, they were not given enough time. They were not given enough time to build out the systems, to build out the gameplay, to build out the environments, to build out everything. Now, they did nail a lot of the other stuff with it when it comes to some of the online play, not the cooperative play. That didn't really work too well at launch. But when it comes to the online competitive play, that was great. When it comes to the co-op against the different like raid battles and stuff, that was also great. But the actual in-game cooperative play wasn't really great at all. So they needed more time for a lot of different things to make all the new Pokemon and to do everything. They just didn't get that. So getting one more extra year and getting the amount of heat that they got to the point where Nintendo had to actually respond with it, they can't have a repeat of that. But I think that the biggest thing here is the fact that they have the Nintendo Switch 2. The Nintendo Switch 2 for the Pokemon Company finally gives them a system with a good amount of overhead in order to really trying to take this and say, okay, with Pokemon Company, you got to kind of put everything at least one gen behind or so. So we can probably get something that's going to look like a really good or solid Nintendo Switch 1 game. And I know some people might be thinking, wait a minute, but it's the Switch 2. But honestly, that's probably what I'm expecting. I'm expecting Pokemon Snap level a bit better, better resolution, better performance than what we got on any Nintendo Switch 1 Pokemon game, where it was 30 FPS with dips all over the place, with the exception of Pokemon Legends Arceus, that game actually ran pretty well, pretty locked at 30 with very few dips here or there, but the graphics in the game weren't great. There was pop-up and all sorts of stuff, but it was overall probably one of the better technical experiences outside of Pokemon Let's Go, Pikachu, and Eevee. Also, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, those ones ran solid for the most part as well, but even that was, I think, at 30 FPS. It should have looked and ran way better considering how it was, but whatever on that one. That was not developed mainly by Game Freak. But I want to talk about this because I think that the Nintendo Switch 2 can really help out the next Gen 10 Pokemon game being an exclusive for it. And that brings me to my next point. There's going to be a lot riding on this. This is the next big generation. It's the first impression for a new system. The system is still new at this point. It's not going to be an old system by the time that this game comes out by the end of the year. It's going to be a year and a half older. So I'm expecting Pokemon Gen 10 to launch in November. I know Pokemon Legends ZA launched in October, but Legends games usually don't launch in November like typical. They launch sometimes in January like Legends Arceus, or they launch in October. They launch at different times. The usual big mainline Pokemon games, those ones are going to launch in November. So I would expect this one to be November, right before Black Friday, so people can go out there and pick it up. Holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, kids, blah, 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 whatever for yourself. I think that's going to happen then. But yes, there is a lot riding on this. No Switch 1 to back you up when it comes to sales numbers. Like we saw with Pokemon Legends ZA, you don't have that massive install base that you can leverage, and it's only about a year and a half after the system has came out. Now there should be a good amount of people that have purchased the system by then, and a lot more people that are going to purchase it because it's going to be a system seller. Pokemon Sword and Shield was a big system seller in November of 2019, but that was about 2 years plus after the system had came out, because the Nintendo Switch 1 launched in March of 2017. Pokemon Sword and Shield came out in November of 2019. So you've got a full 2 years and another half a year on top of that, plus for the install base to really build up. This one is going to be one of the drivers earlier for the install base. Now, Pokemon Let's Go, Pikachu, and Eevee, that was also a driver, but the new gen Pokemon games, those do way better than the other Pokemon games. So anybody on YouTube that's trying to look at Pokemon Legends and act like that's some type of, oh, it's not selling up to expectations or something, that's silly. The big gen Pokemon games, those are the biggest sellers. So Pokemon Sword and Shield, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, those have both sold, I think, 27 million units plus. I think Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is at 28 million. So those are the biggest sellers. So this is going to be the game that hopefully gets them back on track when it comes to the graphics, having no issues when it comes to performance. And I know that Pokemon Legends ZA, that was great on performance on the Nintendo Switch 2. Switch 1, it was definitely better than Scarlet and Violet. Not perfect, but better. But the game didn't look incredible, and it was all in one city. So I do think that now, since you have these big open areas that you're going to have, once again, you're going to have to nail the graphical aspects of it on top of the gameplay as well. You can't have some of those issues you had with some of the gameplay elements from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, although it was incredibly fun if you were able to get through it. And if you're playing on Switch 2, it's even better when it comes to that. And there was a lot of criticism when it comes to what happened after Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and once again, rightfully so. And I think that that criticism and that feedback has to be a driving factor. I think it was one of the driving factors. If this game turns out to be, okay, wow, it does look visually impressive, a lot better than what they did before, that's going to be one of the things that I feel was absolutely necessary, considering we went through a whole Nintendo Switch 1 era of Pokemon where there were issues, not just with the graphics, but also with some of the gameplay elements because of the performance of the game. Nobody wants to have frame rates dipping all over the place. There were definitely things that they can work on outside of just the graphics. So hopefully all of it comes together because of the power of the Nintendo Switch 2, because they have an extra year, because of all the different feedback, and because they need to nail this as it's really close when it comes to a new gen Pokemon game to the launch of a system. This is going to be one of the things that's going to really help out Nintendo when it comes to selling the system. There's always tens of millions of Pokemon fans that are waiting to buy that next system when it comes to Pokemon, but they have to see that new generation Pokemon game. So if they reveal this game in February here at the end of the month, the 27th on Pokemon Day. That is going to be an event. That's going to be a spectacle. I'm anticipating that there will be a gameplay trailer, or they will show off something. Last time when they revealed Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, I don't remember if there was much gameplay or not. I don't really think so, but I think with this one, since they are having it where it's a reveal in the same year and a launch that same year, you're going to have to say, this is what we have. You're going to have to establish that, and then throughout the year, just like you did with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, because that was a crossover. I think it went from 2021 to 2022 with the launch of the game. But what they're going to have to do here is very similar. Have a regular flow of updates and trailers and new information to get people excited. And of course, if you're Nintendo and if you're the Pokemon company, because the more systems you sell, the better your game can do, I think that both of them are going to have to keep the hype and kind of keep things going throughout the year with different trailers and different lore drops and different things in order to get people excited and say, hey, buy the Nintendo Switch 2 now so you can get ready for the game later in the year. So I'm excited to see what happens. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm definitely skeptical that things can go a little south in some areas here or there. But I think it's going to be considerably better based off the information that we have now, based off some of the leaks. It's going to be better than what we saw with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, but we will see. So what do you guys think about everything that I talked about here? I know there was a lot of Pokemon information. Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.